that it's not practicable. So there's an internal inconsistency within the document. So I think, this is an area where, I would take some exception to the secretary's proposal, because if the secretary is saying it's possible and practicable, it should be merged. So there's two separate questions here.
Yes, it's based on a contingent possibility, which is her decision appears to be based upon a contingent possibility, which is that the decision was ultimately made with the expectation that Athens and Grafton will continue to pursue creation of a union elementary district. But that's an expectation.
So, and Donna, did you have any additions to add?
I was just going to add that on page 96 it says, I believe that it's not practicable at this time, which was on June 1st when there were discussions.
Yeah. It's Stacy.
Just to call attention to the sentence right before the one that I think John just read. I think that's the but. Possible and practical, but given the but is mine, it's not in there,
Yeah.
but given the very small size of both districts, it will be interesting to consider, it's an interesting turn of phrase, whether there are any other benefits to the creation of the unified district. So I think what I'm hearing is that while possible and practical, there seems to be maybe minimal benefits because the numbers are so small anyway, therefore not recommended.
I think that gets to the last paragraph on 96 where it talks about it's not possible because it doesn't advance the goals of 46. So maybe that the way I'm reading this report is that at some point the scale is too small to create something that would actually have benefits to meet the goals. And I think that's where the secretary, and again, this is just trying to dissect with the secretary to help
Right.
us think about, do we agree, disagree, or not? John?
Right, I wasn't waiting on agree.
Oh, yeah, I'm pointing out, and I think that's where it's really helpful to go through the secretary's plan and use it as a tool, because it makes you think about your own principles.
Yeah,
John?
I'm not sure there's anything in the goals of Act 46 that speak to the size of districts and say, don't do it if it's a bunch of small schools. There's certainly language in the Act that talks about preferred structures and so forth, but that's not a goal of Act 46.
But actually, in the section on alternative governance, it's very clear that the smallest number of districts practicable within that supervisory union. So this is one, as I'm reading it, I really actually disagree pretty strongly with kind of where the acting secretary landed, because it actually talks about some of the benefits of, including resource sharing, school choice amongst the three schools. So it speaks to a number of the benefits under the heading of being practicable. So I'm not sure that I would have agreed with where this landed. So one thing, and this gets back to John's point about what's not identifying what's not possible, is it doesn't actually identify what makes it not practicable.
So what would people wish it would have said? Peter?
Can I just say that these aren't tiny schools. Athens, Grafton's 72 and Westminster's 189. I mean, these aren't, the reason in Vermont, those are reasonable sizes for elementary schools.
But it doesn't meet the threshold.
Oh, Bill, yeah. So
Which ones are you looking
Yeah,
at?
so it does meet the threshold of 900.
for that-
So if you want to just have
Yeah.
Athens has 5 kids per grade level.
The 900s.
No, this is this book.
Right. So that it is
That's
900 for
Athens,
the
Grafton
SU.
combined.
Yeah, well, that's what that is.
So, again, hopefully this could be as a tool of, do we agree, disagree? Anything in there that people are pulling out is either deciding it's practicable
Because
or
they
not
want
practicable.
overseas,
Is there language that people would want to introduce to the board, or would we want another example to keep honing in?
10 kids per grade level.
Well, if my memory serves me correct, Athens and Grafton entered into a joint contract. Correct. So you have that context. So these are two communities that have formally
They have a
entered into a
joint contract.
relationship to jointly operate a school together.
Okay.
So I think perhaps the context here was they're on a continuum of working through that, and that ultimately that joint contract relationship would transform itself into a formal union school district. So I think that's why some consideration was given to the fact that contract was in place.
Like Twin Valley.
Slightly different situation.
Yeah.
Right, and so how does that play into decision-making if it's for or against?
I think that's an important point. So if there's some other activity that is ongoing that actually does advance the goals, that, not just sort of sticking with the status quo. So that, I think, is one of many factors.
So do we want to start adding this maybe just to a list, Stacey, if you're just kind of on the list of maybe possible, practicable?
Yeah.
So, so something about just the idea of there's already movement to work together in a formalized way. Is that what I'm hearing from you? That is it from a formalized entering into contract? So they're moving towards a merger, maybe at not the pace that Act 46 would like, but they're in that process, and maybe it's not practicable to allow them to give them time to
disrupt that.
disrupt that.
Can you, so if there's movement to work together in a formalized way, then, sorry, I'm just trying to restate, so make sure I'm writing down what I was hearing the chair say was that if there was movement to work together in a formalized way, then it would not, am I hearing you say then it would not be practicable to disrupt it?
Well, I was trying to summarize Oliver, so let you.
If the districts are can have demonstrated that there is tangible progress being made towards consolidating governance into a smaller number of governance units or districts, it would not be practicable to disrupt that ongoing activity.
Okay. Do we want another example to help our thinking? For when the secretary
let's
saying
do it.
non-practicable. So number 24. Let me get there. And if people have a page number
132.
132. I thought I was being smart by putting down the numbers. Oh, this is a big one too. Okay, so we have a 132, and then goes all the way to
142.
okay.
Is the
Yes,
decision.
142. So this one is a little bit more complicated, and let's just go over this. And again, this is for the audience too. It's looking at Cabot, Danville, and Plainfield. And it says, accordingly, the secretary believes that the best means of meeting Act 46 goals for each district individually and for the region is for the state board to, first bullet, merge the governance structures of Cabot and Danville into a single unified union school district that provides for the education pre-K through 12 students by operating multiple schools, and redraw SU boundaries so the new UUSD becomes a member district of the Caledonia Central SU. And then it says, merge the Twinfield Union School District with one or more other districts and move it to a larger SU when uncertainties in the region are resolved and the state board has sufficient information to make a decision, taking into consideration that districts otherwise exempted from the merger under the state plan are subject to SU boundary changes, both under the statewide plan and separately. So this one is a little bit more complicated, because it's recommending merger in one, but not for another. And it doesn't say the word practicable, but I'm sure people are looking at that when I was reading. Peter.
Yes, we heard, we've heard about this district.
Quite a bit.
We heard very clearly from Danville that they would not they don't want to go into a union district with the current high school situation in Cabot. That's an issue. What do you call it? Is that practicable, or because they said we're going to really resist this if that happens. So, I mean, if you just formed them as an SU and then let them work it out together,